So welcome back to our next episode of the AI Ate My Homework. This is Jason Zarn, a program manager with the Delphi Center for Teaching and Learning, overseeing the Digital Media Suite. And joining me today, I have a faculty member from the School of Music. Jason, could you introduce yourself?
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Jason. I am also Jason Cumberledge. I'm the Director of Athletic Bands at the School of Music, which is to say I lead the marching band and pep band programs, but I also have responsibilities in teaching future music teachers. I teach music education courses, including a class called Marching Band Methods.
So where did this assignment that I ran through the AI come from?
So this is a handbook project. The point of this project is to have these future teachers in my class demonstrate a thoughtfulness and a planning ahead of the things they need to think about in administering a full high school marching band program. Things they need to include in this project include a cover page, a table of contents, detailed letters to parents and students about the meaningfulness of their high school programs, a statement of their marching band philosophy, expectations, rules, attendance policy, uniform policy, all of these things, costs and fees, equipment, field trips, what's the schedule look like for the year, all of these things that marching band directors do outside of actually teaching and directing a band. It's very important. And oftentimes when students leave college, they often say, I'm ready to direct a band and rehearse a band, but I wasn't ready to do the administrative work behind the scenes, which can often be more than 50% of the job. So the point of this project was to start these students to think about the tasks that they have to do in addition to actually teaching and directing a band in the future.
Wow. I know I did marching band in high school, and one of my brothers was a marching band director as well. And so I think he had a band of like 200 and something students. So you're navigating possibly 400 parents and
absolutely
so many other things that I don't. Does that come up in your class? Do you teach like how to manage?
We talk about parents. So this class meets once a week in the fall semester for 50 minutes. Ideally, we would meet maybe 3 days a week for an hour. We do talk about parents and communication with parents and the community in general, not just parents, but administration, colleagues, peers, and also the boosters organization, which is another component as well. So absolutely, there are many things that marching band directors do outside of directing on a podium.
So this is a really free-ranging assignment that covers a lot of different parts. Where do students normally do really well, and where do they maybe fall short or have troubles?
So on my list here, I'm looking at the assignment page. There are 16 elements that must be included in the handbook, and these detailed elements are ideally coming from influences from their past experiences. Often they'll reference their own high school band experiences and then extrapolate upon that. They use their high school experience as the basic skeleton for what they want to do in the future, and then move on from that. They succeed mostly in the policy procedures, rules, uniforms, the check-in, check-out, things like that. When it comes to philosophical discussions or large-scale objectives or expectations of the program, more abstract things, they tend to be less detailed and provide less quality work in those areas, which is the whole point of this project, is to get them thinking about those things. So, of course, they're going to improve over time. This may be the first time they've thought about these things. They may have done these things because others told them this is how you should behave in my band. But these future teachers need to start thinking about, well, what am I going to have my students think about and behave, and what are my objectives as a future teacher?
It's an interesting assignment, and it's one I think that working in college, we don't often get a class about being a teacher either. There's a very small subset of probably in College of Ed where that really happens. I think most of us we get our degree and then we're expected to be teachers. Exactly. So I think that's interesting to have them really think about that directly. What were your first impressions of the AI's response?
The AI response was very similar to the projects that I've been receiving over the past few years, to be honest. Some of the things and the feedback that I often give on these projects recently have been more details are needed, more specific details expand upon this is a great starting point, but expand upon it. And that's what I would say with the AI. Even the wording of things makes me wonder now how many students may have been taking advantage of the AI the past few years, especially. So moving forward, I've really been thinking about how can this be restructured, this project specifically. We can't write it in class in person. I can't watch them do it. It's hard to quantify what I mean by the details, but you know it when you see it, right? So I tried actually here in the DMS last week during our meeting time for another class on ChatGPT, asking the program to write a philosophy of music education and spit out something that was decent. And I said, include a personal story that's meaningful and touching. And it completely made up this story about why something happens to a student in class at some point. So if I were to do this project in the future and were to add components of you need to mention this school or this place, and you need to mention some sort of personal story of why you chose this philosophy or this objective, that's something that could also be generated by AI. But what I think I need to do is carefully think about and write down and quantify concretely what these details are that I'm looking for. Right now, in the business of this end of the spring semester, I haven't had time to do that, but I do know it when I see it, the details, and AI didn't do that.
Oh, okay.
So there is something to whittle away there as far as touch points for these details that are needed. Specifically, let me give you some examples, maybe 15, the calendar of events.
Yeah.
That's something that's very generic often, such as high school competition at Kentucky High School. What I need there is a maybe schedule of the day for that competition, right? Leadership structure, the names of the leaders and the positions in the group could be specific from one band to another. AI may not know that yet. For instance, a field commander is different than a drum major. There is a very specific difference there. An executive leader in a marching band is different than a section leader. These small nuances in how someone's going to design their leadership structure in the band is something I'm looking for. So I think details and also creating forms. Can AI, if I say create a form for a field trip, it can do that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And some of them can even generate it out as a document for you that you just copy straight in. Some of them you'll have to do a little bit of the formatting, but they'll put the lines in, and they'll do all of the different components for you. And if you're in ChatGPT, you have what they call the canvas, where it basically lets you edit line by line in the different sections that you want to make modifications to, and it just it molds and changes, so it's very responsive. And
that's something that's a part of this too, is me being more familiar with all the options and the technology that's quickly developing. Like we talked about offline before this podcast started, this is like the internet in 1990 and 1995. This new thing that's going to change the way we teach, we direct. My research colleagues, my mentors, they conducted research in the 1980s by physically going to a library. And that obviously is completely different now, and that's even changing with research AI tools. So again, I think about the it. What is the purpose? What is the it of this project? It's to have students think about themselves as a future teacher and the things that they have to do outside of the rehearsal room. And they will likely be using AI in the future to help develop their own for real band handbooks. So maybe one option is to lean into that and help them do that now so that they can be more polished and structured in the future with their actual handbooks. I don't know. That might be part of the answer as well.
Yeah, I think the leaning into it, the really recognizing that this will be a tool that will be available to them, that it's like a calculator. Why wouldn't you use it in certain situations? I do think you're making a really good point about how there are key details, real details, that are part of this assignment's value. The fact that this is an incredibly authentic assessment. This is explicitly something that if they do well with it, they could probably just modify and adjust to whatever job that they have as a band director and use this 15 to 20 pages right off the bat with much less work. So I think that that's a very valuable kind of way to consider, especially an assignment that is already very, very authentic, because that's another one of those examples of techniques to reduce the way that AI could take over the process.
Right. There are definitely ways for AI to save time so that teachers can spend that time in better ways. And I am all for that. So finding ways to purposefully address AI in class and find ways to maybe maneuver the current way that these projects are constructed into that avenue might be helpful for everyone.
Yeah. So coming out of the School of Music, you work with a lot of very creative aspects of what people would normally think the AI couldn't do. But I know just before we started, you mentioned, this is something that we're seeing. How does this show up in other areas in School of Music and in the classes that you're teaching or that others are teaching over there?
I've seen it used to create music and videos, audio and visual stimuli that can follow text prompts. Elementary teachers have started using this for K through 6 students, and working together with students to maybe read a poem, some cross-curricular things. Read a poem, write their own poems, and then put that into AI with some ideas for what they're thinking in their heads, and then they can see the video in real life. So there are ways to do that. What I haven't seen yet is for marching band. We create marching band arrangements all the time, very time intensive. It is enjoyable to hear your own arrangement performed, right? They are custom made for the ability levels and talents for the students that are in your band. And we write drill on marching band fields. Perhaps someday AI can write a marching band arrangement, write an orchestral transcription. That would be something, but that would definitely be a major step in how AI would change the creative process for musicians.
Yeah. So what do you think, and this is totally just putting you on the spot here, what do you see is happening to School of Music, maybe even specifically your classes, but just in general, with the continuing growth of how these AI tools can do some of these things? What would you say to your students that they should be preparing for?
Right now at the School of Music, we are on the very back edge of AI, meaning I'm sure other areas around the university are well ahead of us. Next year, for instance, for the first time, I will start including an AI statement in the syllabus. I know there's a university policy or handbook or suggested wording. I haven't seen that in syllabi at the School of Music. It's not something that's talked about too often yet at the School of Music because it's new, because we are kind of heads down making creative processes and so busy with our day-to-day lives that it's not something we actively talk about. But as I mentioned offline before, I have started to see this topic in conferences that I attend. For instance, I went to the National Association for Music Education National Conference in Atlanta last year, and there were a few sessions dedicated to AI. One of them which shared the audiovisual task that I talked about earlier. And how we address this moving forward is so important for our students. And I think we do need to include it purposefully in our class topics now.
Yeah.
And that's something I do plan to do for definitely this class, Marching Band Methods.
Any final words for your peers? Any other ideas you want to put out there?
I think we should lean into this and use the positives and regulate and set up guidelines ahead of time so that we can use this as a positive tool for our students in their future careers moving forward. As we talked about, AI is here. It will be used. It can be a time saver. It can help us be more efficient with our tasks, and addressing it up front, I think, is the way to go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of AI Ate My Homework from the University of Louisville's Digital Media Suite. We'll be back with more faculty perspectives on navigating AI in higher education in our next episode. Join us as we explore another dimension in teaching in this rapidly evolving landscape. Find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And remember, the conversation about AI and education is just beginning. This is Jason Zarnt from the Digital Media Suite and the Delphi Center. Have a great day.